Hello everyone. In this video, we will get started with CI/CD in Azure Web Apps. This particular video, we will discuss what do we need before setting up CI/CD in Azure Web Apps. The first thing that you require is a VSTS account. So VSTS stands for Visual Studio Team Services. And VSTS is a cloud service for collaborating on code development. It provides an integrated set of features that you access through your web browser or your IDE client. And VSTS is also a collection of hosted DevOps services for application developers. Two of the main features in VSTS are the build and release, which help you to manage continuous integration and delivery of your applications. So if you have already used Team Foundation Server or TFS, you might ask, what is the difference between VSTS and TFS? They both provide an integrated collaborative environment that supports Git, continuous integration, and agile tools for planning and tracking work. The difference is VSTS is the cloud offering, whereas your Team Foundation Server is the on-premises offering built on a SQL Server backend. So organizations typically use on-premises TFS when they need their data to stay within their own network. So let's look at now how to create one VSTS account. One prerequisite to create a VSTS account is that you need to have a Microsoft account. If you already have your Gmail account or any other account, just sign up for a Microsoft account and you can use that Microsoft account to create a VSTS account. So just go to visualstudio.com and with the Microsoft account that you already have, just sign in to the application. Once you sign into your account, you will see a create new account button, and you need to use that button to create your projects within Visual Studio Team Services. I already have created one account here. So the account name that you give will be pre-appended to visualstudio.com and it will be the URL that you will be accessing to access your project files. And once you create your VSTS account, and of course you need to have an Azure subscription, either a free one or a paid one, because we are going to deploy to Azure Web Apps. And finally, you also need to have Visual Studio 2017. So you can go and download the community version from the Microsoft website. So once you have all these three different things, you are good to go for doing the exercises in this particular module. Hello friends. In this video, you will create a team services project. So first let us understand what are team services. Team services is a collection of hosted DevOps services for application developers. And as you know, build and release are two of the DevOps services that are provided as part of team services that help you manage continuous integration and continuous delivery of your applications. And team services has the following core components. The first is the code. Team services host your repositories into which you can commit and push code or pull the latest changes or track a release across branches and work towards your release milestones. Another core component of team services are nothing but agents and queues. So to build your code or to deploy your software, you need an agent. An agent is nothing but an installable software that runs either a build job or a deployment job at a time. So to begin with, you might need only one agent, but then as you add more code and more people, where many people are parallelly checking the code in, then you will need several agents. When your build or deployment runs, the system starts one or more jobs, and the team services support what is called as hosted agent and a private agent. The hosted agents run on the team services platform, and Microsoft takes care of the maintenance, installation, and upgradation of your hosted agents. Whereas your private agents are the agents that you set up and manage on your own servers to run either the build or deployment jobs. So when you use the private agents, you typically have more control to install dependent software that either needs to be included in your build or deployment. Okay, so you can install a private agent on either of the different platforms, like for example, you can install it in Windows or Linux or Mac OS machines, and you can in fact install your private agent on a Linux Docker container. And after you have installed the agent on a machine, you can, as I said, you can install any other software that your job requires. Another key or core component of team services is that of builds. So at the beginning of the build process, the agent, either your private agent or your hosted agent, downloads the file from your remote repository into a local sources directory. And you can typically specify the events that will trigger the build, and in our case it will be a code commit into a team services code repository. An agent will then be used to build your application based on the code and based on the build definition. So agents perform build test and generate artifacts that will eventually be used in release and deployment phase. The next core component is a release. You specify a release by using a release definition, and a release definition is one of the fundamental concepts in release management for team services and team foundation services. So a release definition defines the end-to-end release process for an application to deploy the same code across several different environments. For example, dev, test, and staging and production. So to create a release definition, you basically must specify the artifacts that make up the release process. And what is an artifact? An artifact is nothing but a deployable component of your application, which is typically produced through a continuous integration or through a build process. And in release definition, you typically define an environment such as your local or any other IaaS server, or in our case it will be Azure App Service, as the deployment point for your app. And when the release process runs, your application is automatically deployed to the defined environment. And the last core component of team services is a deployment group. A deployment group is nothing but a logical set of deployment target machines that have agents installed on each machine. So a deployment group represents the physical environment such as a dev, a test, UAT, or a production. So you can think of a deployment group as nothing but a grouping of agents. So when you create a team services release definition, you can optionally specify the deployment targets for a phase by using a deployment group. And using a deployment group makes it easier to define parallel execution of your deployment. To get started with continuous integration and continuous delivery, and to manage the code commit process, build definitions, and release definitions, let's go and create a project in Team Services. But before that, you need to create an account. So I will create one more account and just select an account name. So whatever the name you select will be pre-appended to visualstudio.com. So let me give the name DevOps course, and you can manage the code either using Git or Team Foundation version control, and this project will be hosted in one of the locations. So just say continue. It's saying that the specified name is already reserved, so you need to make sure that you are giving a name that is globally available. So let me just try to add DevOps Azure course. So it by default creates a new project called my first project. I would not like to use this project. So what I will do is I will go back to my account, and within my account, I will create a new team project. So for the project name, let me specify it as DevOps, and the version control that I'm going to use is Git, and the work item process is Agile. Anyway, we will not have to do anything with this one. Let's say create. So it has created a new project, and I will initialize this project with a README file and click initialize. So VSTS redirects you to a project page. Here you can see all the information with your project, who are the different members who are part of this project, and what is the different activities, for example commits and pull request, and any of the builds and releases that you have created. It also shows work items if you have created any work items to work on the different features of your project. So let me go to dashboard, and inside your new project, select this option which basically opens your project in Visual Studio. Note that at this point in time, only a README file is there within our project, and soon we will add a code to our project. But before doing that, just make sure you are within the right project. And if you are not within the right project, just go and select your project. So just say open in Visual Studio, and you can choose to open with the version selector. And here sign in to the Visual Studio using the same account that you used to sign into your Visual Studio online services. Once you log in, your Visual Studio opens with the account, and it is connected to the Visual Studio online services, or I should say Visual Studio team services. In the next video, we will create an app locally and deploy that app to Azure from Visual Studio.